Carolina's Field, Forest, and Water. A closer look at agriculture in South Carolina and conversations between the current and future leaders of agriculture in the Palmetto State and experts from across America. Presented by the students of the South Carolina Governor's School for Agriculture at John De La Howe. From our campus in McCormick County, here's our moderator, TyMere Morton.
Welcome to this edition of Carolina Field, Forest, and Water. I'm TyMere Morton. Today we've been joined by Mr. Joseph Egloff, the man who has been described as having a big hat and a big heart. Today is me, Mr. Eric McCall, Mr. Joseph Egloff. We're here to talk about beef cattle. He's here from the Rockin' Cheer Ranch. They have over 300 acres and raise beef cows. Thank you. We're going to try to get him on a couple questions today. Are you ready, Mr. Egloff?
Absolutely.
Well, a couple questions I come up with. How do you like the beef cattle industry?
I love it. I cannot imagine doing anything else at this point in my life. I've wanted to do it ever since I was a kid playing in the dirt. My daddy and my granddaddy were cattle ranchers. And after my daddy died, I kind of felt like I missed my dream. I missed my chance of owning my own cattle operation because his place had to be sold. But I've always wanted to be in the cattle business, and that's has been a lifelong dream, and that's what I think pushed and drove me to build and start Rockin' Chair Ranch Cattle.
How long have y'all been in business? Well, like when did y'all start?
Well, about 12 years ago, I had a small hobby farm. Called it a hobby farm because I had to work a day job just to make it work,
yes,
to feed my cow habit. But about 12 years ago, me and a friend of mine were talking one day, and he had a friend that had a small restaurant that wanted to serve a farm-to-table burger. So we went through the process of getting our mobile meat license and getting everything together, finding a processor that could process our cattle for us. And we went to our first farmer's market and sold 6 pounds of ground beef for $36. I delivered 100 pounds of ground beef to the local restaurant and received $400 for that, and that's what kind of started us off. And we have grown from there to now. We own a little over 500 acres of land. We have our own processing plant, and we process cattle for about 190 other different farms. And we sell beef mostly in the Atlanta, Peachtree City area and Macon area.
So how far do y'all go out with like getting calves in and cows out?
We, a lot of our farmers bring us cattle to the processing plant from as far away as North and South Carolina, Tennessee, Alabama. We have a couple of customers from Mississippi and all over Central and South Georgia.
Yes. Mr. McCall, I got a couple questions for you.
Sure.
Do you see the governor's school doing any business with the Rockin' Chair Ranch?
Well, there's always a possibility that we could, have a business arrangement. I tell you, Joseph and everyone at the Rockin' Chair Ranch have been extremely valuable to us in terms of their advice. And I think Joseph has seen his dream become reality, and he knows all of the roadblocks and the things that you run into along the way, and even the things that we don't know to anticipate. Because as most people know by now, we are planning to try to develop a meats facility here on campus. And so we've reached out to people in the community, and Joseph was one of the main ones that we've been talking with, trying to get advice on, which way do we go? How do we do it? What's the best process? And, we're very thankful for his advice, because a lot of times I've learned, I was in business for a lot of years myself, and some mistakes you have you have to make on your own to be able to learn from them. But if we can benefit from learning from other people's, mistakes and the process that it took to get there, well, that just helps us all. And people like Mr. Joseph, who are so willing to share their knowledge with us, is incredibly valuable.
Thank you. Mr. Joseph, I got a question. So, when you first started, the same 8 calves you said you started out with on your hobby farm, is that what you started processing with?
I had the first one I processed. I had an older bull that was my first beef that I processed. Was an older bull, and I've had everything ground up into ground beef, and for the first while, that's all I sold was just ground beef. But in the beginning, my goal was hopefully to do 12 head of cattle a year. And the next thing I knew, the demand had grown so much, I was looking for other cattle. And I started buying a lot of cattle from other farmers around, mostly heifers that didn't breed or open heifers from out of their program.
So how many calves do y'all probably calve
This year we'll have about 75 to 80 head of calves that are homegrown, and then I still buy a few outside cattle.
How many do y'all get in a year from different farms?
Probably 25 or 30 head.
That's just from South Carolina alone?
No, from Georgia.
From Georgia. So most of y'all buyers from?
Most of our cattle come out of Georgia. Yes, sir.
Okay. Mr. McCall? So with the calves that we have here now, do y'all have any intention of sending anything to Rocking Chair Ranch?
Yes, so we haven't gotten that far down the track. When I started as the farm manager here back in November, we just started calving that following January, and so we had a calf crop that we've raised, we've weaned off, and now we're feeding those calves now. So we're still potentially, I'd say, by that calf needs to be about 21 months old, before it's ready to be processed. And so we're still a little ways down the track before we'll be processing anything that was actually born and raised here at Delahow. But definitely, I mean, we certainly want to do business with Rocking Chair Ranch. I will say that right now we're having some pork processed, and we're doing business with Jason Ashley down at Back 40 Butchery, who has been very open and very forthcoming with information and wanting to help our school as well. So I think a lot of people in the processing, Jason and his family are very good people, and they're very interested in the school and want to support the school a lot, and we see that out in the community.
And that's, if someone asked me what part I'd like to play in this, it would be to not necessarily process for y'all, but to help y'all get the groundwork behind you and help you get your facility up and running. That's what would bring me the most. That's what would bring me the most satisfaction, is seeing another small facility or mid-sized facility, whatever you want to call it. I guess it depends on what you compare it to, but to get another facility that could be sustainable and help the school create more employees and more education for people to go out into the community and work in other packing houses. That was what I would really like to see come out of this experience.
And we appreciate that. We definitely do, because I think you, and even in my conversations I've had with Jason Ashley, you were telling me earlier that you're looking for trained individuals.
Or even I'm to the point that if someone just really truly wanted to learn, I'd be willing to train. It's hard to find. It takes a special type of person. It takes somebody with a skill set and ability. And that's one of the reasons we pay as much as we do to try to get people into this field. But we need more places to teach this skill. People are going to continue to eat
That's a fact.
And we got to have somebody that can turn that raw product into a consumable
Consumable product.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people, I'm not trying to steal steal your
You're
time
good.
there, Ty, but
You're
I think
good.
a lot of people, at first you think, oh, well, cutting up a carcass of beef, how hard could that be? You know, you just take it, you got a sharp knife, and you just cut it in chunks, right, and package it. It couldn't be farther from the truth. There's a science to it. There's a method, and there is a specific way of breaking that carcass down and making it into marketable cuts.
Absolutely it is. And it's amazing to me that I've never really been in the culinary world, but the number of chefs that want all these different and unusual and odd cuts. And they're the new rock stars. If you don't believe it, just talk to a chef. He'll tell you.
He'll tell you.
So how many people do you have on your payroll right now?
18, I believe.
So how many did you start off with?
One. We were a one-man band for several years.
Yes, sir.
And then we really started growing. Rocking Chair was kind of mulling along there, and we really started growing about 8 years ago. Tracy came to work for me, and we kind of started getting some traction and expanding a little bit, and then we went to a added value conference, and we met some people, and it kind of took us down a different path that I didn't think I'd ever go down. That's when we started talking about building a packing house, and that took a lot longer than perhaps maybe it should have, but we had a lot of hurdles to overcome that were not expecting.
So what is it like night from daylight to sundown at Rocking Chair Ranch?
It varies day to day and week to week. Typically, I'll get up and I check in with Tracy. Tracy answers all the emails and things. And I check in with her and see what come in or what might be going on, and then I'm the one that checks my cattle every day. I still go around, and my cattle are separated off into different pastures, but I make my rounds, check my cattle, go by the packing house, make sure that everybody's up and running, take care of any little odds and ends that needs done there. I'm still the one that runs a lot of errands, that gathers up everything from paper towels to cleaning products. On Tuesdays and Thursdays, I'm the one in the back unloading cattle. And so I still do a lot of the day-to-day operation stuff. And then in the afternoons, I'll make another round on my cattle.
What kind of cattle do y'all usually try to breed up there?
I come from Mississippi, and my daddy had a lot of ear cattle. And I'm a very odd person in my area where I live. Most people have Angus there, but I run a lot of crossbred eared cattle. I have a lot of Brahma influence in my herd, simply because that's what I like. And we have, where I live there, we have more hot and dry weather than we do cold weather. And the ear cattle seem to do a little better for me there than, and that's, like I said, that's what I enjoy.
Do you think the climate had anything to do with the meat when it comes down to butchering cattle?
I'm not sure if climate has as much to do with it as the feed. Well, I guess, of course it does when you think about the grass that grows, but what the cow consumes, I think, has more influence on the beef than breed or color or anything like that. I think a lot of, if you've got a good rainy spring and your summer grass grows well, your meat's going to be a lot better. So if you've got good forage and good feed, then you're definitely going your product will be better.
Ty, I asked him a while ago, we were riding around in the truck, and he was telling me that he's got a little more ear influence in his cattle. And I said, well, have you noticed a decrease in intramuscular fat just from having, that Brahman influence in your cattle? And his response was, no, not really. That's something as producers, I've heard it a lot through the years. The more ear you get in your cattle, that's just a decrease in intramuscular fat. But it's only to a degree, I think.
Correct. And I have photographs, and there was a study done by South Carolina a few years back. We actually donated some rib loins to them to do some comparisons. And a good fed crossbred cow marvels out just as well as some of the straight English breeds. So it's a lot of it has to do with how it is fed, what it's fed, and how it's fed.
One of the things I think about, if you've ever sold through a barn here in the southeast, if you take calves to the barn, they got some ear in them, and it's showing. A lot of times you'll get what we call getting docked, or you'll get less money. And that's because your buyers are thinking, well, these ear cattle are going out west to a colder climate. They're going to have to be fed in a colder climate, and so therefore that represents some sort of a liability to us. Well, if you're feeding cattle who are bred to survive in the southeast and you're killing them in the southeast, then you're realizing the full potential of that animal and its genetic components.
And that's, if you go to South Texas, South Louisiana, you see a lot of ear because they're what can survive there.
That's right.
So and that's one of the things that makes me excited about y'all putting in a packing house facility here, is that it's another avenue for those local cattle to stay local, be consumed here. And if we can get a packing house here at the school, that would enable more local cattle to be consumed here.
Absolutely. It's a win-win for the school and for the community.
Yeah. So what's the biggest difference you see in the cattle that come from Texas and Alabama than up here in South Carolina and North Carolina?
Not a whole lot from South Carolina, not a whole lot. Some of the cattle you see coming from a little further north, you see a little more hair on them. There's a lot of good fat cattle coming out of South Carolina. You might see a little less hair on some of the southern cattle.
Do y'all buy a lot of forage market steers?
Say that again?
The forage market steers in the forage project?
We don't.
Y'all don't?
We don't.
Okay. So what's the biggest problem y'all run into with the butcher shop?
Goes back to labor. Good educated, trained labor. Finding those people. Because our packing house is a smaller packing house, everybody has to do more than one job. And so it's not like at a grocery store where beef comes in boxed and one person makes one cut all day long. A true butcher has to be able to take a whole carcass off the rail and be able to break it down into about 22, 23 different cuts to get that product into its full potential for the consumer. So having that person that's trained and understands how to dismantle that carcass that's probably the biggest hurdle that we get over every day.
How many cows do y'all probably process a year?
Probably somewhere around 1,500 to 1,700. We average about a little over 100,000 pounds of beef on the rail per month.
That's pretty good.
That's a lot of beef.
Yeah.
And I think it's worth noting you've told us several times that when you were building your strategy, your market plan, you needed to make 35,000 pounds a month to make it fly.
Yes, sir.
and now currently you're at 100,000, north of 100,000 pounds
100,000.
per month. So if your break even's at 35, I mean that's pretty good. Pretty good profit margin.
You know, I kind of laugh, and I told some people sometimes I feel like a drug dealer. I go to the bank a couple times a week, but I took a lot of risk. We have a lot of overhead to pay, but the meat packers is where the money is made. It's where the risk is. It's where the risk is. It's where a lot of the investment is. But it's where the money is made, and that's another reason that I keep circling back to trying to encourage somebody else to build a plant. But if we could get the support behind the school and they could get a facility, it would be something that the school could have that would actually create income for them. And,
Not only that, and train individuals to work out in the industry.
Sure, and the school could also, one thing that I'm not allowed to have in my county, but if the school could have a retail outlet here, that would allow the local community to come and enjoy some of the benefits of having a local abattoir at the school, and it would be I think a very, very big asset for y'all.
Oh, there's no doubt. It would definitely help us with our sustainability goals. It would help us to develop our market, which is very much in our plans. It's a priority. I think it would go a long ways.
And
Probably bring a lot more people back to the school
Yeah,
and the community.
Yeah.
well, and I tell you something else. There's no education better than retail. If you want to get an education,
Work in retail.
Work in retail for a little while.
Yeah.
You'll learn a lot. But you know, there's so many pros to this for the school. I truly hope and pray that we can get the support behind it.
And I think we can. We appreciate members of the community like yourself
Yes.
jumping in there with us.
What's some of the places that y'all sell beef to?
Our biggest outlet is probably the farmers market in Peachtree City. Then we have the Ingleside Village Market there in Aiken, who has been my oldest supporter. Brendan Riley and I go back, 8-10 years, maybe more, about 10 years or so. Then we sell the Fountain of Juice, a local restaurant. Then we have Grits Cafe, which does a wonderful job for us, and the Farm to Table in Sharpsburg sells for us. Dickey Farms sells a lot of our beef. There off his farm. He has a farm store and retail outlet.
Yes. Well, do you got any path, like put us on a good path where we're gonna start around here?
That's a good question. I wish there was a magic recipe that I could tell you that if you did this, this, and this, that everything would work for you. But I don't really know that I could. I don't really know that I've got that. But I would say that I do truly believe in my heart of hearts that if you are able to build a processing plant and provide a good service at a fair price, that it will catapult not only you but other farmers in this area to a different level, because I have seen it do that in my area. And it will make your sustainability possible more so than any other one thing that I can think of that you could do. When you are able to take that raw commodity and turn it into a usable product, you're creating something. You're not just selling a service, you're creating something.
Thank you. Well, guys, thank you for tuning in to our podcast, this edition of Carolina Field, Forest, and Water. I'm TyMere Morton, Mr. Eric McCall, and Joseph Egloff. Join us next week for our podcast on agriculture. Thank you.
Carolina's Field, Forest, and Water. A closer look at agriculture in South Carolina and conversations between the current and future leaders of agriculture in the Palmetto State and experts from across America. Presented by the students of the South Carolina Governor's School for Agriculture at John De La Howe. For more information on the South Carolina Governor's School for Agriculture, visit our website at delahowe.sc.gov.